Hello again, it's Noob, and wow, do I have something really special for you today. I get to show off the Urban Alps Stealth Padlock. Just look at this. I mean, it's an incredible sight, isn't it? This premium padlock, Swiss engineered, retails for over $1,000 US. That's right, and just take a look at how beautiful this thing is. I've shown this off to people who have no interest in locks whatsoever, but they are blown away by the incredible styling and feel and look of this really, really chunky lock. It's made from a super alloy that they use in the SpaceX rocket engines. They don't say what the alloy is, but it's possibly the SX500 alloy that SpaceX use. I mean, just look at this huge lump. This weighs almost 4 pounds at 1.8 kilograms. We've got a shrouded shackle, and that's a 12mm shackle there. There's a 20mm gap either side, and you can imagine if there's two 10mm chain links or a really thick hasp attached to that, there's no way to reach that shackle at all. The padlock itself has an internal stealth cylinder, that's right, using the iconic stealth key technology where the bitting, the key profile if you will, is hidden inside, and they do that by 3D printing these keys to hide that key bitting, to avoid key cloning through people taking photographs of keys and then 3D printing copies of them. And these keys are 3D printed in the same super alloy they use for making the padlock body itself. Again, that same alloy used in the SpaceX rocket engines. When you see this lock open up, it really is just, I mean, it already looks amazing, right? But just check this out. Look at that. I've never seen a lock which works in the same way. I mean, that is just something, isn't it? Look at this. Whole half a body turns, it clips together, then it locks back up, and that is just beautiful the way that works. I've just got to do it again for you. I mean, it's just so nice. So he slides in, no problems whatsoever, turns, you can release it and open it up. You can see this side there is an actuator, and attached to that are two ball bearings. There's cutouts in the two, let's call them shackles here. So those ball bearings will engage with these cutouts to stop the lock from coming apart when it's locked up. And you can see the back of the stealth cylinder here, and that engages with the actuator at the back like this. Look at that. I mean, that is just so lovely. Yep, the stealth padlock, really just amazing, isn't it? The alloy used is really resistant to high temperature torch attacks, submersion in liquid nitrogen, sawing, cutting, drilling. I mean, it really is a beautiful but very functional thing. In fact, this has got the maximum resistance class ever achieved by a padlock according to standard EN 1630 2016, and that's resistance class 4, and they get that, I believe, through doing a prolonged attack with various cutting and drilling technologies and you know, hammers, chisels, those kind of things, and it's got to stand up for a certain amount of time to those sorts of attacks by somebody experienced in those kind of attacks as well. There's very little information on it, but that's what I managed to glean. I mean, can we just appreciate this lock again? I'm just going to do a slow rotation of it. If you're into locks, technology, high security products, then I think you'll agree this is like a hypercar in terms of lock technology. It really is beautiful. So what is this stealth cylinder? Well, this is the stealth key cylinder, the stealth cylinder, and inside that padlock is going to be a version of this, but just half of it. And on its own, it looks really lovely. You can see that they offer a range of different key bow colours. And let's just take one of these keys. And you can see how it works just the same way as the other lock did, apart from it can turn all the way around. But that doesn't help us understand what's actually going on inside this lock. But that's okay, because we are also blessed to have with us today a limited edition cutaway of the stealth cylinder. That's right. And not only the stealth cylinder, but the key itself. Let's start with the key. Remember, these are 3D printed keys, and that is how they look normally, both sides. Take a look at this cutaway key though, and you can see the bitting on the inside. So the bitting are these ups and downs that you see here either side of the key, and that means that they will manipulate something inside the lock to greater or lesser degrees. So you can see how in the key something will move as you move the key into the keyway, and it'll move further the higher the peaks on the key are, and whatever's inside the lock will move less far the lower the peaks are inside the key. Let's actually see this 3D printed key go into the stealth cylinder, and you'll see how it goes in, and you can see these little things moving inside the lock in response to the key bitting, moving in and out. When the key's fully inserted, you'll see that you can turn it very, very easily 360 degrees. How is this actually working? What's going on inside this amazing lock? What you can see inside this lock are loads of moving parts. Now these are sprung and pivoted, so I'm going to refer to them as levers, much like you'd find in an old style lever lock. So these levers are lifted by the bitting on either side of the key. So these levers on the right will be lifted to a greater or lesser degree by the bitting on the right, and likewise the levers on the left will be lifted by a greater or lesser degree by the key bitting on the left. There are 14 levers, or at least that's what I think I can count in there. But what's stopping the lock from opening without the key? Well, I'm just going to insert the tip of the key and try to turn it, and of course it doesn't work, just like any lock. This is a dual sidebar lock. What you have, if you look down here, is a cutout in the wall of the lock, and in that cutout is pushed this bar, a sidebar, and there's one either side here. And because that's stuck halfway between the lock core and the outside of the lock, the whole thing cannot turn. This central part of the lock cannot turn because the sidebar is trapping both the inside core against the outside of the lock. The only way in which the whole thing can turn is if the sidebars can retract into the central part of that lock. Let me put that key in again, and you'll see those levers moving up and down, up and down, up and down. Now, without turning it, if I press on the sidebar, you'll see that I can retract it with my finger. And this is angled, this cutout on the body of the lock, such that when I turn it, it will automatically push that sidebar in, just like that. Can you see it's a V shape? Let me just show you here. That V-shape cutout means that when the correct key is inserted, the sidebar can retract, and this V-shaped notch pushes the sidebar in here and on the other side there, allowing the whole lock to turn. So at rest, what is stopping these sidebars from retracting? Well, if you look carefully at the levers, you'll see that they have notches in, and I can show you that there's a deep notch here and there's a deep notch just down in here, but they're not aligned with this sidebar. There will be, of course, 7 deep notches each side at different positions and they can only allow that sidebar to retract once those deep notches are, of course, aligned with that sidebar. So if I was to manipulate this lever here, you'll see that I'd have to move it quite far down to get that gap to be underneath this sidebar. You'll also notice, and it's quite clear on this lever here, that there are steps on the levers, and those steps are called false gates. So the big gaps, which are deep, are true gates, and the false gates are more shallow steps, and that's designed to arrest picking attacks by allowing the sidebar to rest in the false gates rather than the true gates, and not allowing the lock to be manipulated open, or at least delaying such an attack. Very, very cool. So there you go, the $1,000 stealth padlock made out of space rocket engine alloy. I mean, you can't make it up. It really is an amazing piece of technology, and this whole video was only possible due to the generosity of the German company Wendt, who kindly lent me all of these locks from their own private collection. Just amazing. So thank you so much to Wendt for lending me all of these locks and allowing me to do an overview of a lock which otherwise I'd never be able to get my hands on. It really is an amazing lock. Please let me know what you think of this lock in the comments. Please like and subscribe. It really does help. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all next time.